Welcome back to Tailgate Game Day. Guy Wehman along with Rick Hasty, and we're going to be looking at some college games this week, Rick.
There's some excitement that's out there right now. Everybody's got their opinion about who's going to be number one, who's going to be number 25, who's going to be XYZ. So it depends on what school that you went to.
Yeah, and what is so interesting about this, Rick, is that we have the AP poll and the coaches poll, and normally these don't come out until a little bit down the line. But here at the beginning, Georgia and Michigan, they're number one and number two. But in the AP, they have Ohio State number 3 and Alabama number 4. But in the coaches poll, they flip those. And so they have Alabama number 3 and Ohio State number 4.
Right. Well, and that's something to where that's Saban call. Everybody wants to take care of the king. And so in turn, and like this is, he's earned that privilege and like that. And, you know, Ohio State's not going to play that tough of a schedule in the beginning, and so Alabama itself is a clear favorite between 3 and 4.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Thursday night, and this goes streaming like on Thursday late night, and then it's played right before the Lakers game and all. But on Thursday night, there's some interesting games, but we do have Missouri, and they're hosting South Dakota. And there's a lot of people that are looking for it. And let's put it this way: Missouri's in the SEC.
Right. And the thing with South Dakota, like it is with most powerhouses, their opening game is, I don't want to say it's a laydown, but it's just one that's not as competitive. All right, kind of gets the juices flowing. So, you know, they kind of expect to win that game. Although there's some concern, like this says, that's going in Tigerland.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got right now a question on the quarterback. Who's going to be the leading quarterback this year? There's 4 candidates. They've got a new offensive coordinator in Kirby Moore. So, I mean, it's something to where the year is an uncertainty, but they called it a make or break year.
Well, yeah, and this is, Drinkwitz and all. He's got that team. This is, I believe, his 3rd year coaching, isn't it, up there in Missouri?
Yes.
And generally, those are the guys that you have. Now, a couple other notables on the Thursday night game is the Big Ten game. And we have the Gophers hosting the Cornhuskers. That's Minnesota and Nebraska. And Nebraska, everyone thought that they were going to be a whole lot better when they brought in Frost, but then they had to let him go because it didn't happen.
Right. And it's also something like this is that, you know, the coaching, a lot of the NFL coaches that haven't made it are starting to be recycled. Okay? And, it's one of these things that Nebraska has got, an inside right now. And I think they'll do well in that game. I would pick Nebraska if I was picking.
All right. And then the other one, and it's Kent State, which is interesting because UCF, and now that's University of Central Florida. That's around Orlando. And so the hurricane that just went through down there did not affect Orlando as much. So that game's going to go on. And but Kent State going in, and UCF wanted to bring them in. Number one, be competitive. But, hey, it's the first one out of the gate.
Well, I lived in South Florida for about 25 years. And just the threat of a hurricane coming through,
yep,
all right, can unravel you. And it makes you have so many adjustments and stuff. So that's going to be a factor. Even though it didn't hit them straight on, all right, it went north of Tampa. But the key thing about it is that UCF is kind of like an unknown, all right, until about 15, 20 years ago. Culpepper came out of there. Okay, and it's one of those things where they have earned the right to play a good schedule.
Well, but it was like 5 or 6 years ago. They had that unbeaten season, and everybody says, "Are you going to pay attention to them? Going to pay attention to them?" And then the 4-letter network, they did not want to pay attention to them because let's be honest here, that national championship for football, that is solely run and owned by the 4-letter network. That's not an NCAA product like it is with March Madness and basketball.
And in the state of Florida, there's 3 schools.
Yeah.
You got Florida State, you got Florida, and you got Miami. Everything else doesn't make any difference.
Now, Gainesville, you talk about the Gators. Now, they had some issues going into that because of the hurricane.
Right. Right, and it's something where Florida State's going to be affected, all right, by it, and then also, like you say, Florida, it unravels everybody,
Yeah.
all right, and until it passes, the outer portion of a hurricane, for those that have never gone through one, is just as damaging, all right, many times of what the main tunnel is.
Yeah. Well, I worked at a radio station and had to broadcast through 2 hurricanes down there, so I know full well what you're talking about. Friday night, when we're having our normal games here, Missouri State and Kansas. So, you think that's going to be a good game?
Yeah, I think, and it's one of those things where Kansas should have the upper hand because it's the larger drawing school. Surprisingly enough, Missouri State's done pretty well.
Okay, and then Saturday. This is really the beginning of the college games. Is on Saturday. They have the Thursday. They'll have a Friday, but it's really Saturday is when they put their full slate of games in there, isn't it?
Exactly. It's kind of like a preview.
Yeah.
All right. You get the coming attractions, and the attractions itself is the top 25.
Yeah, it is top 25. Arkansas State and Oklahoma, and the Sooners, they're looking to have a good year, and they're starting off at noon on Saturday. So that's like their premier game right out of the gate.
Well, it's amazing that Oklahoma came out in the poll, all right, in the AP poll and the coaches poll. Both of them are right around about 20. Mm-hmm. 20 in the coaches poll, in the AP poll, and 19 in the coaches poll. Oklahoma's always better than that.
Yeah.
But in turn, it's how it develops.
Well, and everyone was hoping for that, and then that's that Big 12 conference. And let's face it, the Big 12, the PAC, SEC, Big 10, there's just a few of these major conferences that are actually going to be big winners, and everybody else is scrambling, and that's all going to play itself out in the next 1 to 3 years. It's going to be that 3-year window that it's all going to shake down.
Well, it's like right now, again, Notre Dame is probably as big a school as anybody.
Yes.
That's going to be kind of wine and dine to jump in there because of the revenue, the TV revenue that they can create. But, Notre Dame had a game over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Notre Dame walked through it. All right. And it was just something to where it's not necessarily an indication of what the year's going to be, but it is an indication that they're there to play.
Now, you mentioned Notre Dame, and they are hosting Tennessee State, and that's in the middle of the afternoon. That's NBC. Now, they have that, being an independent school like that, they have long enjoyed that contract with NBC.
Well, Tennessee State is a small school, all right, about the middle of the state, and it's one of those schools that when you think that because it says Tennessee, you kind of connect it with the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they're way off difference.
Yeah.
Different leagues.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, Ohio State. We're native Buckeyes. You're from Dayton, and I'm from Northeast Ohio, Elyria, and then Akron. But here's Ohio State, and they're traveling to Indiana on opening day.
Well, Indiana, basketball country, they can play extremely good basketball. When it comes to football, it's not that they haven't played, but it's one of those things where they're just not known for it. So Ohio State traveling the first game, trust me, they didn't set the schedule up and take an away game to open, all right, if they didn't think they were going to win.
And Big Ten on CBS, this is quite interesting, and they're putting in one of their key guys, Brad Nessler, on that with Gary Danielson. Should be an excellent call.
Yeah. Danielson, I like him real well. He does an outstanding job.
All right, let's see. Coming up next on the list is Nevada at USC, and USC is number 6 in the polls, and so USC has done well for themselves, haven't they?
Well, they've had some real good junior seniors that's been out there. Wide receivers have been handpicked for years. Running backs have been handpicked for years. So when it comes down like this, again, they finished the year out pretty strong, and I think the polls represent the fact of what they believe they're coming back with and the coaching staff.
All right, let's scoot down on the list here. Southeast Missouri State. They're traveling over to Kansas State. Kansas State is ranked number 16 in the polls, and that's going to be on ESPN Plus, so people will not be able to see it unless they pay that price.
You know what? A lot of people go to different premium channels. I highly suggest that you take and spend the extra money for, all right?
For the ESPN Plus?
Yep. Because it's one of these things where if you are truly a football fan, and if you enjoy the NFL or if you enjoy just college at that particular stage, you need, all right, to kind of get something that would give you a weekend, all right, of excitement.
Now, this is interesting, and this is the first time. NBC is trying something this year for the first time. They're calling it the Saturday Night Special, and NBC, and right out of the gate, they've got Penn State.
Well, all right, the producers, all right, are pretty smart about who they're going to pick, and Penn
Oh, yeah.
State's always been.
Happy Valley.
Yep, and they always have a phenomenal team like that, and that goes back from the very beginning of time, I believe. But it's one of those circumstances that Penn State will be, again, a good show. West Virginia is no slouch, though. All right, I would take probably Penn State is ranked, higher at that particular stage where West Virginia is not even ranked. But West Virginia's produced some pretty good athletes.
Yeah, they have. And what is interesting, they're going head-to-head against Alabama, which is the fourth-ranked team, and that's on the SEC network. And so it's like, okay, here we got a battle of a top-ranked Alabama going against Penn State here, and NBC is saying, well, wait a minute, we are the mother network. You're not going to beat us, SEC network, when we've got the Peacock.
That's right. Well, you got Alabama right now. Again, it's not necessarily a total laydown because Middle Tennessee, it's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, it's just south of Nashville. But it is something like this is to where their team has proven it has some good players, all right, and that they can compete. I'm not sure they're in Alabama's class.
All right, we got two more games to talk about here. On Sunday night, this is the Sunday before Labor Day, LSU's traveling to Florida State. Should be absolutely a great game. This is number 5 going against number 8. 7:30 on on ABC, and Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. That's their A team over there.
Right, and anybody that's watched college football, those are two of the outstanding broadcasters. The hurricane will affect this.
Yes.
All right. Florida State, Tallahassee is something where it didn't get hit straight on, but it is something where some of the remnants of the hurricane will be.
And probably what's going to be the star of the show is going to be the field. Is the field affected? Is it going to be a sloppy field, a fast field? In Florida, they know how to drain their fields with the sand and all.
Well, that's a great point. Right, this is because Florida State's always been known for speed. And, it's not that LSU, they got the receivers, they got the running backs, but it's something where you can take longer cleats and use those, all right, when it's a little slippery. But at the same time, and like this is, if you're relying on speed and the passing and the weather itself affects it, it's going to hurt your game.
All right, this is the Monday night offering, and this is on the 4-letter network. It's Clemson at Duke.
Clemson has come from 20 years ago when it first started being a powerhouse. And have you ever gone to Clemson?
No.
Okay. The Rock, I've pounded it a couple of times. And it's really a fantastic school. Athletically, they get tremendous support from the community and from the state.
And from their backers and boosters.
Oh, God, yeah. So when you look at the school at that particular point, playing against Duke, which, again, very well supported by it. It's
and Duke's over there at Chapel Hill, isn't it?
Yeah. So, they're kissing cousins, all right? But it's one of those things where Clemson, again, is in a class of its own. And, you're looking at a number 9 ranked team, all right, playing against a basketball school.
Okay, just some final thoughts here, Rick. You've got all the college teams. We've looked at some of the rankings here and some of the key matchups over the weekend. What's your final thoughts?
Biggest thing is that I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about Missouri. I think Missouri's going to have their hands full this year. They got a new offensive coordinator that's come in. They've got a question about their quarterback. Their defense is going to be set real well. I think they're going to be strong. All right. The offense is just the one. They've had this new program that allows, if you don't like where you're at, you can put in a request to be transferred to a different school. And they lost one of their best players, all right, to Georgia. And so, coincidentally, they're going to play Georgia later in the year. But I think that for the local fans and for people that kind of follow Missouri, the Tigers have got some questions, but there's optimism also. And they think that this new kid like this can come in and do real well.
Well, number one, you want to be competitive. You want to have a winning season, so at least you get a bowl bid at the end. And being in the SEC, it's going to be tough to be number one or number two, but at least you want to be competitive enough to challenge.
Well, the thing about it is the new coach, Finkel, set a standard much like Woody Hayes did.
Oh.
All right. It's a hard act to follow.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
That's it. And, his record so far has been 29-20.
Good.
All right. 17 and 19 has been kind of like the schools that's in the conference. But the biggest thing in like this is at halftime, if they're leading, they are like 20-2. All right. So let's hope for a good first half.
Let's hope for that. Hey, Rick, thanks.